Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. This is No Soundbites Allowed, and I am your host, Michael Voss, Dragon of the Southern Tier. Happy to be with you today. So let's talk about the election and who trusts the elections. For those who have never been here before, let me stop and mention we do long-form political commentary here, addressing all of the issues that may be affecting us in this country, and we're happy to have you here with us. So today, of course, the election still is the most prominent thing. 3 days after the actual election, and everyone in the nation is talking about it. There is nothing but questions that remain. If we take a look right now, as of this moment, we are looking at, let me fix this a little bit. As of this moment, we are looking at the election, and what we can see is that there's no decision. Literally at this moment, and this is a live update. I will update it once more with you. 3:54 p.m. And we see that it looks like Joe Biden is about to go forward. According to the results, we see that Joe Biden's almost at 270, the magic number. And we see that many states have gone that were originally expected to be red for President Trump, like Georgia, like Pennsylvania, like Michigan, like Wisconsin, Nevada, Arizona. All of these states were considered to be at very early in the process on Tuesday and Wednesday, even Thursday. They were all expected to be won by President Trump. And now, on Friday, November 6th, they are held by Joe Biden, and he has the lead with 73 million votes. And what do we take from this? The clear thing that we can say is all of the pollsters were wrong, absolutely wrong. And there is no confidence in polls anymore. After the 2016 race, looking at 2020, what confidence can anyone have in pollsters? They got it wrong in state after state after state. They were just wrong. We may recall, we were told before this election that this was going to be a landslide victory for Joe Biden. It wasn't. We were told that all of the polls showed a 9, 10, 16-point victory for Joe Biden. It's not there. And there are a lot of questions that have come up in this. So besides the fact that no one trusts the polls anymore, there is no reason to believe in pollsters when it comes to the presidential election. We also have the fact that we saw as late as November 2nd, that NBC News was mentioning that the Trump vote, blacks and Hispanics were going for President Trump. Something that was considered unheard of, that was considered to be incredible. Just beyond possible. And yet, every indication was saying the black vote was moving away from Democrats, which is essential to a Democrat win. And this was something that was dangerous because if it were in the 70, 75% range of black vote for Democrats, that would not be enough, and the Democrats would lose. The fact that we had heard Joe Biden over and over again making his statements about if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. That black women, the reason why he could stay in a basement during coronavirus is because of black women on shelves. He mentioned that poor kids are just as smart as white kids. He had a huge number of statements downgrading and denigrating anyone who's black and black voters. And this is something that's historic. He's been saying that since the 1970s. This is not new. But yet he was the champion of the Democratic Party. Well, led to a lot of questions. And we've covered how Ice Cube mentioned that the Democrats weren't willing to work with him. We saw Kanye West. We saw Waka Flocka, the rapper, Lil Weezy, and many other individuals, 50 Cent for a time, all switched sides. Said, hey, we're not backing the Democrats. the Democrats aren't doing anything for us. So that means, and that shows, a lack of trust, a lack of faith. Then we take into account, as we have shown on the program before, that we saw the internet media giants. We're talking about Twitter, Facebook, Google, absolutely willing to manipulate search engines, to manipulate information, news that is actually brought out to the public, denying them information, not letting them see the truth. And whether people like that truth or not is irrelevant to the fact that they literally blocked people from being able to gain information. Something that brings up the question of how badly are the internet giants, these monopolies, manipulating information and changing the way that people are able to look at elections. We've covered it several times. So there's no trust in the internet and social media. There's no trust in pollsters. There's no trust in the news, where we have seen consistently the major news media have overwhelmingly already made their decision. You can look at CNN, Rachel Maddow, and her years, the news media in years, promoting the idea of Russia collusion that never existed, that never had any proof. The perpetuation of myths, like President Trump had never denounced white supremacy or the KKK, which he had done dozens of times and has been proven to have been, even news media like Jim Acosta literally said it in tweets and in articles that the president had denounced white supremacy and KKK, and yet they ask him again. In fact, even Mike Wallace, who was the commentator the moderator at the first presidential debate between Joe Biden and President Trump, and he asked President Trump about denouncing slavery, white supremacy, and he asked that exact same question in 2016 to President Trump and got the same answer of denouncing it. So the fix is in. So you can't trust the news media. You can't, whether it's online or any other format, you can't trust the pollsters. What's going on? How does anyone have any confidence anymore? And the thing that really got me, the thing that really threw me over the edge in this election, in the middle of the night, the election's going, and suddenly at 1 a.m. on Wednesday, the November 4th, suddenly all of the counting stopped. In the remaining major cities, President Trump was showing a victory in Pennsylvania, in Georgia, in Wisconsin, in Michigan, in Nevada, in Arizona. Victories in each and every one of these states by wide margins. And then suddenly, for no reason, for the first time in our history, the election just stopped. The counting just stopped for no reason. No one was told why, it just stopped. And then when we saw it restart at 5 a.m, earlier than what we were told, everyone was expecting that the recount, the starting of the counting, would happen again at 9 a.m. And instead it happened at 5 a.m. when the news media wasn't looking for it, when no one was aware of it. Suddenly counting started again, and we saw an onslaught of votes just for Joe Biden. In fact, one of the things is it was so sudden and so strong and so well reported and mentioned by everyone that we saw on November 4th, PolitiFact coming out and saying, no, it's not true that 138,339 votes for in Michigan came up for Joe Biden. A lot of people said, well, yeah, that is the way the numbers were reported. And then it came out afterwards, no, there was an error. There was an error in the counting. It really wasn't all that for Joe Biden. But here's the thing, 128,000 votes. No, it's not true. It didn't happen. Well, it kind of did happen. As an example, looking at Pennsylvania, which at this moment, Pennsylvania, as we look at it right now, Pennsylvania is showing 3,315,000 votes for Joe Biden, 3,300,000 for Donald Trump. On November 2nd, when they stopped counting, we know that President Trump was up 700,000 votes. At the time, it was statistically impossible for Joe Biden to have a recovery. There were some 90% of votes in at that time. And then suddenly, over the next 3 days now, we've seen that Joe Biden not only got 700,000 votes, he got 715,000 votes out of nowhere. 715,000 votes have come in, all for just Joe Biden. That is huge. Actually, it's a little bit higher because President Trump got more votes in that time. So we're talking almost 800,000 votes came in just for Joe Biden. Is it possible? Maybe. But again, why was there a gap? Why did we only see this surge after that gap? There really hasn't been a good answer. Even if it were 100% true, we have questions. We have doubt. We have good reason to doubt it, as we see that many of the polling stations are being boarded up, hidden from the public, that individuals who are supposed to observe the votes are being masked. And even worse, and I have this, where did I put it? Because I want to share this with you. Even worse, we have situations, as you can see here on Parler, and I want to make sure that we can see this. And I want you to hear this.
Election officials are intentionally refusing to allow representatives and poll what?
I'm going to send it to Bill.
This lady is marking the ballots. I filmed her a half hour ago doing 6, and she's still working at it. Let's stamp it, received, and let's fill in our 6 blanks. All at the top of the tickets on each one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And there's a security guard right there who's watching her. The cops are in on it. Disgusting.
Okay, that's horrendous, and that came from Parler. And as always, links for everything we're showing you will be in the description. But think about that. That's insane. That is literally insane that we are seeing people who are doing the polling going out and literally changing votes. We've seen that Project Veritas has come out, as we have covered before, where we've seen people going around changing the mail-in ballots, the absentee ballots. We have seen in Florida, in New York State, where where the dead literally have been registered to vote. There is every reason to believe that this election is flawed at the least, biased, absolutely, and quite literally may not be legitimate. And I don't care if you're thinking of whether it's Joe Jorgensen, whether it's President Trump, or if it's Joe Biden. There's no reason to trust many of these results. Nothing makes it seem credible. Not the pollsters, not the news media, and not what we're seeing with the count. I mean, let's think about this again. Now, let me go back to this again on the count. We have seen that on election night, 3 days ago, millions of votes were counted, not just in individual states, but across the country. Even in Pennsylvania, as an example, we had over 2 million votes were counted by 1 a.m. And then it's taken another 3 days to count 1.3 million votes. Actually less. 3 days. Georgia had over 1.6 million votes, and it's taken 3 days to get another 700,000 votes counted. Nevada has been in the 600,000 range. They've been basically taking 3 days to count somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 to 75,000 votes. Why is it taking so long? Why, if they have done hundreds of thousands, millions of other votes, why are these last votes so difficult to count? Why can we not see an accurate answer? Why is this continuing to be a question? And as we've gone forward, we've seen that not only did we see that there was a shift towards a vote of blacks towards President Trump, but we've seen the media mislead us yet again. And I use the article from NBC News. Black men shift slightly toward Trump in record numbers. Well, is it record numbers or is it a slight shift? That's a message. Are you saying that President Trump received a record number of votes from blacks and minorities? Or are you saying it's a slight shift? Well, it kind of makes more sense. If you look at overseas, you have to go to England and the Daily Mail. And we see that 1 in 5 black men voted for President Trump, which shows that we have seen a consistent drop in this trust and the support of Democrats by blacks since 2008. And it has continued to drop down and down and down. A great chart of it is right here. From 95% support down to 80%. Now, when you're looking at all of this, you have to wonder, what is the rest of the world saying about this? Well, in Hong Kong, the support was for President Trump because Joe Biden is considered to be weak, that Joe Biden couldn't stand up to China, that Joe Biden has more of a support for the socialist ideology than President Trump. And we see, as a result of all this, lots of confusion in the nation, a lack of trust, a real question about what's going to happen. What if Joe Biden wins? In 100 days, his administration have promised to take away the Second Amendment rights of millions of Americans. They have said they're going to take the guns, that they're coming for our guns and they're going to take them. That was a promise. We know that the 25th Amendment is something that Democrats have been pushing to move forward so that they could replace Joe Biden with Kamala Harris. We've seen a major move towards the ideology of the Democratic Socialists of America with the Green New Deal, with the extension of removing costs for college, mask mandates, shutting down the nation. None of these things are positive. And then we have the rank and file socialists out there, and I'm assuming they're socialists out there, that are telling us, you know what, that Trump supporters aren't human beings. When you hear all of that, you have to wonder, something's wrong. Something's changed in America. I can tell you, in 52 years of my life, I have never seen an election where they have stopped the count in the middle of the count for no reason whatsoever. We've never seen a reversal of votes that are so statistically impossible. We have never seen the media line up with voting to push one candidate over another so blatantly and so actively. Even as we have reports over and over and over again of fraud, of the dead being registered, of questions. And the problem is, and here's the thing that a lot of people haven't talked about, let's assume that we find out there were 100,000 votes in Pennsylvania that are absolutely fraudulent. They're bad votes. They should not count. Whose votes are they? Who do we know? If we know someone was registered dead, a dead person was registered to go and vote, whose vote is it? How do we do anything about that? In the example I showed you here of the video that we see where a pollster is changing the vote, filling in blank votes, whose vote was it? We don't know. There really isn't a way to tell. So even if we could say that there was 1.5 million votes in various cities that were absolutely illegitimate, whose votes were they? That's a big argument. The result is, I don't know that I can trust elections anymore. I don't know that anyone can trust elections anymore. I don't know what's the truth anymore. And that's terrifying. I believe in America. I believe in the Constitution. I believe that we are the greatest nation in the world when we have our freedom. But what we've seen in this election for 2020 isn't about freedom. It's about subservience. Subservience to the internet giant overlords. Subservience to the news media and their preferences. Subservience to a political party that believes it's smarter than the people are. This is dangerous. This is probably the worst kind of scenario we could have had. It's one thing that if Joe Biden had won, he won. But to steal it away, to make people believe that it was stolen away, that's devastating. That's the worst thing that could happen to America. But this is how I feel. These are my thoughts on it. Perhaps you have different thoughts. Let me hear what you think. Contact us on Facebook or on YouTube. And of course, we'll be going over this again on Sunday, which will be the 8th, I believe. Sunday, November 8th at 2:30 in the afternoon Eastern Standard Time, where we will be going live with you to talk about this and everything else that's going on, including things we've been doing some research, trying to get answers on some issues that really have been ignored and must be talked about. But we'll be talking about that on Sunday. We look forward to hearing from you. And until then, be safe.